When did you try to cover for someone and it became your worst nightmare? Holy hell, I need to type this out before I completely lose it. I literally just watched a 65-year-old man try to hide an irreplaceable 19th century diamond filigree necklace inside a Talenti gelato container. And honestly, that wasn't even the worst part of the weekend. I'm Philip Singh 51M, and I'm currently huddled in the mudroom of a rented Airbnb in Carmel, California, trying to decide if I should call the cops or finally just admit I need a new career path or maybe just a lobotomy. I don't even know where to start with this dumpster fire, but let's go back 72 hours. I am, or was, a senior operations analyst at a mid-tier logistics firm in Sacramento. A job that is perfectly respectable, perfectly soul-crushing, and pays exactly enough to afford my half of the $1,247 monthly rent on my apartment 3B, plus keep my beat-up 2018 Honda Civic running. I've been with the company for 28 years, almost 29. And for 28 years, I have been the definition of a people pleaser. Say yes, stay late, take the extra project, smooth over the difficult client, cover for HR when they mess up the PTO hours. Literally, my entire personality for decades was Philip will handle it. Spoiler alert, Philip cannot handle this. The career crossroads theme is relevant because I just got passed over for the director role again, for the 5th time. The email dropped Tuesday at 11:47 a.m., right after I had just finished fixing a massive spreadsheet error caused by my boss, who naturally took all the credit. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I was going to throw up the lukewarm Starbucks latte I'd been nursing. I sat there, staring at the screen, heart racing, thinking I am 51 years old and I am still polishing someone else's brass. So when my old college buddy Megan Cooper, 60F, called me that afternoon frantic about her daughter's bachelorette weekend, I immediately said yes to stepping in. Why? Because I'm an idiot who literally cannot say no. Megan, bless her cautious, overthinking heart, was stressing out because the original event planner had bylaid. Megan is an architect and planning is not her forte. She sounded like she was having a breakdown over the color of the cocktail napkins. "Philip, please," she said, and I could hear her pacing. "It's this ridiculous coastal cowgirl theme, which means I have to source bespoke boots and ensure the charcuterie board has exactly 3 artisanal cheeses. I can't. I've used 40 hours of my PTO this quarter already just dealing with this. I'll pay you $3,000 flat, just come manage the chaos. Please, I know you need a break. $3,000 for a 3-day weekend." That was almost enough to cover my monthly target spending habit, which is truly alarming. I'm always ordering things at 2 a.m. Plus, it felt like a cosmic sign that I needed to literally walk away from my desk and breathe. So I used 3 vacation days, the last I had until November, and flew down to Carmel Thursday evening. The setting was a gorgeous, ridiculously expensive Airbnb right on the water. It was supposed to be a relaxing, fun weekend for 12 women getting drunk on personalized Chardonnay and taking structured photos for Instagram. It was not. The problems started the moment I arrived, naturally. Megan, 60F, met me at the door looking like she hadn't slept in 48 hours. She had color-coded binders for everything. I mean everything. "Okay, Philip, you're responsible for the schedule, the dietary restrictions, gluten-free, dairy-free, nut-free, and one girl is apparently just mood-free after 5 p.m. Good luck, and most importantly, damage control. I am handling the centerpiece flowers." I said about being Philip the problem solver. The theme was tacky, the guests were already annoying, but I figured I could manage. The core group was small and included some real characters. There was Natalia Perry, 64F, the bride's aunt. Sweetest woman, genuinely kind, but she is a legitimate, serious cat hoarder, not just a little bit. We're talking 20-plus cats. She smelled faintly of Lysol and desperation. She kept showing everyone photos of her prize Siamese, Prince Mittens III. She was already weeping about missing her bobbies by 8 p.m. Friday night. Then there was Gabriel Lopez, 65M. Gabriel isn't family or even a close friend of the bride. He's the groom's uncle, a retired opera singer who describes himself as a charismatic newcomer to every social situation. He was there purely because he'd offered to pay for the private chef for the weekend, and apparently no one had the guts to tell a man who was bankrolling the dinner that he shouldn't attend a bachelorette party. Gabriel was loud, incredibly charming, wore a silk smoking jacket indoors, and kept telling everyone about his upcoming motivational speaking tour. He was exhausting but TBH, a little fun. And finally, the complication that has me questioning my reality, Brandon Young, 85M. Brandon is the bride's paternal grandfather. He's a delightful old man who, according to Megan, has a slight kleptomaniacal tendency towards small, portable items, exacerbated by early-stage dementia. Megan whispered to me, "He's not malicious, Philip. He just packages things like a squirrel prepping for winter. He once tried to mail our remote control to himself. He was supposed to be watched by a hired aide, but the aide called in sick with explosive diarrhea Friday morning. So Brandon, 85M, was loose in the house. I took the warning seriously. I made a mental note to watch the expensive AirPods, the fancy car keys, and any wallets left unattended. The first 24 hours were typical bachelorette hell. Someone cried because her Talenti gelato flavor wasn't stocked. Someone else complained that the background music, my carefully curated 90s R&B playlist, wasn't vibey enough. And I spent a solid hour negotiating a $347 catering bill because they accidentally delivered the wrong type of microgreens. Then came the crisis point, around 5:30 p.m. Saturday. The bride, Chloe, was getting ready for the big evening dinner, a $250 a head surf and turf situation. Megan was helping her and I was trying to corral the guests for the mandatory professional group photos before the light faded. Megan rushed out of Chloe's bedroom, her face pale, her lips trembling. Megan, 60F, is cautious and overthinks everything. so when she looked genuinely panicked, I knew it wasn't about a misplaced napkin. Philip, she choked out, grabbing my arm, her manicured nails digging in. The necklace, it's gone. What necklace? I asked, already dreading the answer. I felt that familiar tightness in my chest that means I am about to take responsibility for something expensive and horrible. The Cooper family heirloom, she whispered, looking wildly around the room. The one great-aunt Beatrice wore to her debutante ball in 1898. It was supposed to be Chloe's, something old for the wedding. It's irreplaceable. It's a 19th century diamond filigree piece. We estimate its value is well over $150,000. My jaw literally dropped, like cartoon character jaw drop. $150,000. What idiot brings an antique that valuable to a rental house with a coastal cowgirl theme? Megan, that's who. She explained that she had brought it early, placed it inside a velvet box, and put that inside a small, locked safe in Chloe's closet, apartment 3B style paranoia. But I checked the safe this morning, she stammered, pulling me into the pantry where the mood-free girl couldn't hear us. It was there. I went to get it 5 minutes ago. The safe is still locked, but when I opened it, it was empty. I felt my stomach drop to the floor. This wasn't a misplaced AirPods situation. This was felony theft. I looked at Megan, whose eyes were starting to well up. My primary instinct was, get me out of here. But my deeply ingrained recovering people-pleaser instinct kicked in. Philip must solve this. Okay, breathe, I said, trying to sound like a competent adult, even though I was vibrating with anxiety. Did you take it out? Did Chloe? Did the cleaning staff? No, no, and no, Megan insisted. The only people with the safe code are Chloe, me, and actually Chloe's fiancé Robert had it too, just in case. But he's in Vegas for his own party. I immediately did the math, a closed circle of suspects, a valuable object, a locked safe. Wait, I said, thinking aloud, if the safe was still locked, how could someone have opened it without the code? Megan sniffled. I don't know, Philip, maybe someone saw me punch in the code, maybe they forced it, but there's no damage. I told her we couldn't call the police yet. We had to do an internal search, a panicked, desperate, silent search of the immediate area. If we called the police during the group photo session, this bachelorette party would become a crime scene and I would forever be associated with it. I only had 3 vacation days left. Keep everyone busy, I instructed. I'm going to start with the people who have been acting weird, which honestly was everyone, but I had 3 prime suspects based on their chaotic energy and proximity. Suspect A, Natalia Perry, 64F, the cat hoarder. Why? She seemed intensely nervous all weekend. I mean, more nervous than usual. She kept excusing herself to the quiet corner to look at cat videos. Financial motive. Maybe she needed cash for some elaborate cat rescue operation. Could she have cracked a safe? Probably not, but she was twitchy. Suspect B, Gabriel Lopez, 65M, the charismatic newcomer. He seemed too smooth, too eager to please. He was paying for dinner. Was that a distraction? He kept making grand, sweeping comments about the filthy wealth of the Cooper family. Possible motive? Funding the motivational speaking tour. He also seemed capable of anything. He had a weird gadget bag I saw him carrying earlier. Suspect C, Brandon Young, 85M, the package stealer. This was my main concern. Not because he was a professional thief, but because he was an indiscriminate one. If he saw something small, shiny, and transportable, he would pack it up. If he had somehow intercepted the necklace, it wouldn't be hidden, it would be packaged, probably wrapped in tin foil and shoved in a Costco bag. I started with the easiest target. Brandon. He was sitting on the back patio admiring his Apple Watch, which was perpetually showing a low battery warning, 3%. He was wearing a ridiculous Howdy Partner visor. Mr. Young, I said gently, crouching down, I'm helping Megan find something important. A very small, shiny piece of jewelry. Have you seen anything like that? Maybe something you thought needed to be put away safely? He blinked his clear blue eyes at me. Jewelry? Oh yes, I put my watch away. Smartwatch, very expensive, had to secure it. Not your watch, sir, a necklace. He tapped his chin. A necklace? No. But I did secure something very important earlier, very delicate, had to protect it from the heat. My heart hammered. What was it, Mr. Young? Can you show me? He pointed vaguely toward the kitchen. It's in the freezer, in the Talenti container. No one ever looks in the Talenti container. It's genius. I literally thought I was going to pass out. I ran to the kitchen. Megan was in the dining room, desperately trying to get Natalia to stop crying about Prince Mittens III. I flung open the massive stainless steel freezer door. There, nestled between 2 bags of frozen shrimp and a tub of Ben & Jerry's, was a pint of Talenti gelato pistachio flavor. Naturally, I grabbed it. I felt ridiculous, like I was in some kind of low-budget heist movie. I peeled off the security seal on the lid and slowly, agonizingly lifted the top. It was empty. Wait, not empty. It was about 80% full of frozen, rock-hard pistachio gelato. But nestled right on top, slightly coated in a thin layer of pistachio ice cream, was a small velvet pouch. I pulled it out, my hands shaking. This was the moment. The velvet was dark blue, the exact color Megan had described. I carefully opened the drawstring, and there it was, not the heirloom. It was a small, chipped ceramic doll's head covered in glitter. Brandon Young had secured a small, glittery doll head inside the Talenti container to protect it from the heat. Not the $150,000 necklace. I wanted to laugh, but mostly I just wanted to cry. I was devastated, but also weirdly relieved I didn't have to explain to the police why an 85-year-old man had stolen an antique. Philip, what are you doing with my Talenti? I spun around. It was Gabriel Lopez, 65M, the charismatic newcomer, holding a nearly empty glass of what looked like very expensive scotch. He smelled faintly of musk and confidence. Oh, hi, Gabriel, I said, hastily putting the doll head and the Talenti container back in the freezer. Just checking the inventory. We are running low on the pistachio, I think. Gabriel smiled, a dazzling, unnerving smile. Don't fret, Philip, I'll personally handle all ice cream refills. After all, I'm a newcomer, I have to be helpful. Though honestly, you seem a bit frazzled. Is the stress of event planning getting to you? You know, you remind me of myself before I discovered the power of positive self-actualization. My new speaking tour, The Audacity of Happiness, addresses exactly this type of people-pleasing fatigue. TBH, you look exhausted. The casual, unsolicited diagnosis hit a nerve. I felt the heat rising in my face. The last thing I needed was life advice from a retired opera singer at a bachelorette party gone sideways. I'm fine, Gabriel, I snapped, which was a lie. I had literally not slept well since the 11:47 a.m. email rejection. Of course you are, he chuckled. But you know, secrets have a way of poisoning the atmosphere, darling. If someone took something, they'll show themselves eventually. Thieves are always desperate, always making a show of being the most helpful, the most charming. It's the cover, you see. He said this while running a finger along the granite countertop, his eyes fixed on mine. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. Was he referencing Brandon, or was he referencing himself? Are you implying something, Gabriel? I asked, lowering my voice. He just shrugged, taking a sip of his scotch. I'm implying nothing, Philip. I'm merely observing human behavior. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to check on poor Natalia. She seems to be in quite a state about her feline situation. Honestly, the things people cling to simply because they fear letting go. It's a marvelous study. He walked away, leaving me standing alone in the kitchen, feeling completely exposed. I was back to square one. Brandon had the intent, but only a doll's head. Gabriel had the psychological insight and the motive, maybe. And Natalia was simply crying about cats. I knew I had to search the guests' rooms. This was a violation of trust, but $150,000 was a violation of sanity. I found Megan again, who was now quietly hyperventilating into a cocktail napkin. I pulled her aside. Megan, I said, I need keys to everyone's luggage, especially Natalia's and Gabriel's. I know it's awful, but we have to check discreetly. Megan looked horrified. Philip, I can't ask them for their keys. That's rude. What if they find out? Megan, this is the difference between awkward social friction and a potential jail sentence for someone in your family. Give me the master key to the rooms. It'll make up an excuse later. Megan, being the cautious overthinker, finally conceded after I reminded her about the $1,247 she paid for the monthly rent on this place and how much $150,000 was worth in comparison. She slipped me the key card to the suite where Natalia and Gabriel were staying. I waited until the group was finally seated for the surf and turf dinner, where I had to listen to Gabriel give a 5-minute toast about the transformative power of self-love and lobster bisque before making my move. I told Megan I was checking the sound system logistics and slipped away. I went straight to the suite. I tried Natalia's room first. Natalia Perry 64F was a hoarder of more than just cats. Her room was chaos. Cat photos everywhere, travel pamphlets, empty water bottles. I quickly scanned the easy spots under the mattress, inside her travel makeup bag, inside a shoe. Nothing. Then I saw it. A massive bright purple zip-up travel bag sitting in the corner. It looked like it was designed to carry a small pet. Wait, she had mentioned bringing an emergency Prince Mittens rescue kit in case she couldn't stand the separation. I unzipped it. Inside, nestled among a bag of gourmet kibble and a tiny cat sweater, was a sealed, padded Amazon package. The kind that contained something small and delicate. My heart rate jumped to 150 BPM. This was it. Natalia, the desperate cat rescuer, had packaged the heirloom. I tore the tape off the Amazon envelope. Inside was a smaller box. I ripped that open too. It wasn't the necklace. It was a brand new, very specific microchip scanner for tracking feline implants. She really was that worried about her cats. I replaced everything exactly as I found it. My palms were sweaty and I felt like a criminal. Next, Gabriel Lopez 65M. His room was immaculate, a stark contrast to Natalia's. Everything was neatly organized, his silk smoking jacket draped perfectly over a chair. He had his massive, fancy laptop on the desk displaying a PowerPoint titled, Leveraging Audacity for Financial Freedom. I hated him immediately all over again. I scanned the room. Where would a charming, slick retired opera singer hide a delicate antique necklace? I found his weird gadget bag tucked under the bed. It was a black leather briefcase, old school. I flipped the latch. Inside, among charging cables, portable microphones, and a small leather-bound journal, was a jeweler's cloth. And next to it, a small, intricate toolkit, the kind used for repairing delicate watches or perhaps manipulating tiny lock mechanisms. My suspicions solidified. He had the means, the confidence, and the weird, off-putting energy. I started pulling things out. I checked the lining of his suit jacket. I checked the inside pockets of his other shirts. Nothing. I picked up the leather-bound journal. Maybe he had written a cryptic confession. I flipped through the pages. It wasn't a journal. It was a massive, meticulously detailed log of all his motivational speaking engagements and, more crucially, his debt. Pages detailing overdue payments, Zelle requests from confused clients, and a terrifyingly precise breakdown of why his new BMW lease payment was $847 and how he couldn't afford it. He was bleeding money. His charismatic newcomer facade was clearly hiding desperation. I was getting colder. I was about to give up on Gabriel's room when I noticed something odd. His phone, an older Samsung Galaxy, sitting on the bedside table. I noticed the cracked screen was actually illuminating slightly even though it was face down, and there was a weird notification bubble at the top. I didn't want to touch it, but I leaned closer. It wasn't a text message. It was a notification from the Ring doorbell app. Ring, recording activity detected at 4:58 p.m. 4:58 p.m. That was exactly 2 minutes before Megan discovered the safe was empty. My breath hitched. I knew I shouldn't, but my people-pleasing need to solve this was overwhelming my ethics. I gently picked up the phone, avoiding the screen. I flipped it over. The battery was already dying at 3%, typical for an older Android. I quickly opened the Ring app. I navigated to the history and found the 4:58 p.m. entry. It was footage from the camera that overlooked the back patio and the sliding glass door, the one entrance Gabriel had been using frequently to go out for fresh air after his dramatic monologues. I hit play. The tiny speaker crackled. The video was short, only 15 seconds. It showed the deck slightly blurry in the late afternoon light, and then at the very edge of the frame I saw him. It wasn't Gabriel, it was Brandon Young, 85M. Brandon, the package stealer. He was walking slowly, deliberately. He was carrying something small and shiny in his hand, something that glittered like a diamond filigree necklace. He wasn't packaging it, he was holding it. He stopped right at the railing, looked around quickly, and then, I swear to God, he tossed it over the railing into the thick, overgrown hydrangea bushes below. I watched the video 3 times in total silence. My mind raced. Why would Brandon steal an irreplaceable antique, walk outside, and just toss it into the shrubbery? It made no sense for a kleptomaniac. Kleptomaniacs keep things, they don't discard them. I was reeling. I backed out of the video, my fingers fumbling with the dying Samsung Galaxy. I put the phone back down exactly where I found it. I now knew where the necklace was in the bushes and who had put it there. But why was Brandon acting like a common litterbug with a priceless artifact? I ran out of the suite and back toward the dining room. I had to tell Megan immediately, or better yet, just go retrieve it myself and act like it magically reappeared. But before I reached the dining room door, I heard voices from the back hall. It was Natalia Perry, 64F, and Gabriel Lopez, 65M. They were talking in hushed, urgent tones. They clearly thought everyone was still busy eating the $250 a head surf and turf. I hid behind a massive potted fern. I know, I felt like a spy in a bad mystery novel, but I couldn't risk them seeing me. You need to tell him, Natalia, Gabriel hissed. His usual charming voice was gone, replaced by something cold and tight. I can't, Gabriel, he will be devastated. And besides, I thought you were handling the payment this morning, Natalia whispered back, sounding genuinely distraught. I tried. My Zelle limit was hit already and my account is currently frozen because of that incident last week. Brandon only takes cash and frankly, I need every penny for the venue deposit, Gabriel insisted. Look, the Cooper heirloom is gone, that's bad, but the fact that he's refusing to leave until he gets paid is worse. And where did he put the money this time? I am serious, Natalia, I can't deal with Brandon's games right now. I froze. Brandon only takes cash. He's refusing to leave until he gets paid. I felt a cold dread crawl up my spine. My mind, trained over 28 years of operations analysis, started doing the math on all the tiny, mismatched pieces of information. The heirloom theft, Brandon's odd behavior, Gabriel's sudden urgency, Natalia's stress. I realized I wasn't dealing with a simple theft. I was dealing with a massive underlying complication I had completely missed. This wasn't about the necklace, it clicked. The math wasn't mathing until now. Brandon Young, 85M, wasn't just a beloved, forgetful grandpa with a habit of stealing packages. He was the package stealer, but not in the way Megan had described. I pressed myself further into the fern, trying not to breathe. Gabriel's voice dropped even lower. The $20,000, Gabriel said, his voice a rasp. That was the initial payment, remember. We paid him half the retainer fee to come to the wedding in the first place, just to keep his mouth shut about the incident from last year. Now he wants the rest. He showed up and immediately demanded the remaining $20,000, and I swear if he tells Chloe about us, everything falls apart. I know, Natalia whimpered. I told him we'd pay him the remaining $20,000, but I had to clean out my savings, Gabriel. My cats need that money. I only have $43.67 left in my checking account. I just need time to get the money back from my vet bill payment plan. Gabriel sighed, loud and exasperated. You should have never let him hold on to that collateral in the first place. Where's the necklace now? I need to give it back to Megan before she realizes it was all a distraction. I physically flinched behind the fern. Collateral, distraction. My mind was reeling. They weren't just stealing the heirloom. They were hiding it, using it as leverage. But leverage against whom? And for what? Then Natalia said the words that made me feel dizzy, the words that revealed the true, sickening nature of the entire weekend's drama. I don't know where Brandon put the heirloom, Gabriel, I swear. I saw him walking outside, looking angry right before dinner. He texted me this afternoon, he triple texted, I'm serious. And he told me he was moving the collateral to a very public, very visible location if we didn't get him the rest of the $20,000 cash before midnight tonight. That's why he tossed it, Gabriel, to make a show. He's using the priceless necklace as a bargaining chip to get the remaining $20,000 that we promised him to ensure he would stay quiet about Chloe's real mother. I felt the blood drain from my face. Chloe's real mother? Gabriel rubbed his temples. I thought paying him $40,000 in total would secure his silence forever. Who knew Brandon Young, 85M, was such a cold-blooded blackmailer? Wait, blackmail, $40,000, Chloe's real mother. And me, Philip Singh, 51M, the recovering people-pleaser who just wanted a quiet weekend and $3,000, was now standing 10 feet away from a blackmail plot involving an antique necklace, a cat hoarder, a failed motivational speaker, and a surprisingly ruthless 85-year-old. I realized that Brandon had tossed the necklace into the bushes at 4:58 p.m., precisely so he could tell Gabriel and Natalia where it was, knowing they would have to retrieve it immediately to avoid Megan panicking and calling the cops. He hadn't stolen it, he'd used it as a delivery system for his ultimatum. The threat was, pay me or I expose the massive family secret by publicly moving the collateral, i.e. making Megan notice it was gone. I didn't even care about my job anymore. I didn't care about the $3,000, I just wanted to get out of the fern and scream, I know where it is. But then Gabriel delivered the final blow. He opened the back door, stepping out onto the deck for what I assumed was the search for the necklace. Well, I'm not doing it, Gabriel muttered darkly. "You handle Brandon, Natalia. I have a plane to catch at 6 a.m. tomorrow for my seminar in Vegas. And honestly, I think this is a sign. I should just walk away from this entire family drama. I'm too charismatic for this mess." And then, as he stood right by the glass door looking out at the dark hydrangeas where the $150,000 necklace was lying, he pulled out his iPhone 14. He wasn't texting. He was opening the camera app. He positioned the phone. He was taking a high-resolution photo of the dense shrubbery right where I knew the necklace was. I watched him tap the screen, capture the image, and then quickly type something into a text field. I couldn't read the text, but the recipient's name was glaringly obvious, even in the dim light of the hall. It was Robert L., Chloe's fiancé, who was supposed to be in Vegas. Gabriel was sending the photo to the groom, not to Megan. And as I stood there utterly paralyzed watching Gabriel hit send, I heard him laugh, a cold, hard sound devoid of all charisma. "Let's see if Robert can pay the remaining $20,000 instead," Gabriel whispered to himself before turning back inside. I knew that Gabriel wasn't just walking away from the family drama. He was walking away with the blackmail target still exposed and was now leveraging the secret against the groom, his own nephew, using the necklace as proof. My chest was tight. I was 51 years old, and I was actively witnessing a multi-layered blackmail plot involving stolen collateral, a dying battery, and a $20,000 payoff. I was stuck between the fern and the realization that if I didn't move now, Chloe's fiancé would either be blackmailed into paying a fortune, or the truth about Chloe's mother would destroy the wedding, and I would be the only one who knew where the evidence, the necklace, was. I took a shaky breath, preparing to crawl out of the fern. But before I could, I heard the distinctive sound of a car engine starting outside the gate, followed by the specific deep roaring sound of a powerful sedan accelerating rapidly away from the property. It was too loud to be my Honda Civic. I ran to the nearest window facing the driveway. I pulled back the curtain, my heart hammering against my ribs. It was Gabriel's shiny new BMW, the one he couldn't afford. Gabriel had just walked away, leaving me alone with the realization that the blackmail plot was now being executed, and he had transferred the knowledge and the leverage to the groom. And the necklace was still out there in the dark, waiting for me to decide if I was going to retrieve it and end the blackmail, or finally, for the first time in my life, take Gabriel's advice and just walk away. I looked down at the key card to the suite, still clutched in my hand, and then looked back at the driveway, now empty. I'm Philip Singh, and I've been a people pleaser for 51 years. Do I solve the crime, save the wedding, and risk being implicated in a $40,000 blackmail scheme, or do I take my $3,000, call an Uber, and decide that my career crossroads leads straight out of this sociopathic mess? I have less than 6 hours before Brandon's deadline, and I have to choose. Help me, Reddit, what the fuck do I do? I think I hear a small, rustling sound coming from the bushes outside the window, and I am literally terrified. I think Brandon is still out there. Holy hell, I need another coffee or maybe just a nap that lasts 3 years. I'm still sitting in the mudroom typing this, but it's Sunday morning now. Everything I just told you happened last night around 8 p.m. It feels like a fever dream. I heard the rustling again. It wasn't Brandon. TBH, I think it was just a raccoon, but in my hyperdrenalized state, I thought it was the ghost of blackmail past coming to get me. I realized I couldn't stay there. Gabriel 65M, sociopathic opera singer, was gone. Natalia 64F, cat hoarder, now bankrupt blackmailer associate, was still inside, probably trying to calculate how many cats she needed to sell to make $20,000. And Brandon 85M, surprisingly ruthless master blackmailer, was out there, possibly lurking near the bushes like a grumpy garden gnome. I had the key card, I had the knowledge, I could be a hero. I could sneak out, fish the necklace out of the hydrangeas, casually put it back in the safe, and tell Megan 60F, cautious overthinker, that the cleaning staff must have put it away too safely. I could solve it, secure my $3,000, and go back to Sacramento as Philip Singh, problem solver extraordinaire. But then I remembered the 11:47 a.m. email rejection. I remembered polishing brass. I remembered Gabriel's smug face when he said, "I think this is a sign. I should just walk away from this entire family drama. I'm too charismatic for this mess." He meant it as a justification for his own sociopathy, but it resonated with me. The audacity of happiness indeed. Maybe my audacity was finally walking away from someone else's mess. I looked at the key card. I looked at the dark living room where the blackmailer's associate was still hyperventilating. I did something I have literally never done in my 51 years on this planet. I chose me. I stood up silently and walked back out of the mudroom toward the main hallway. I bypassed the dining room. I couldn't face the surf and turf, and went straight to the front door, the one I used when I first arrived, full of people-pleasing hope. I pulled out my phone and quickly texted Megan, who was still captive at the dinner table. Me too, MEGAN 8:17 p.m. Saturday. Urgent work crisis came up. Massive server failure back in Sacramento. I have to leave immediately. So sorry, leaving the key card on the console. Will explain later. The catering bill is paid. Good luck with the mood-free girl. I did not mention the necklace. I did not mention the blackmail. I did not mention Gabriel's impromptu flight or Brandon's $40,000 secret. I lied about a server failure. It was the laziest, most typical operations analyst excuse I could possibly invent. I dropped the key card, walked out the front door, and didn't look back. The Carmel air was cold. I stood there for a minute, vibrating, feeling terrified and exhilarated all at once. I hadn't made an appointment. I hadn't filed paperwork. I hadn't even packed my nice pair of slacks. I only had my backpack with my laptop, which I had grabbed from the mudroom. I walked down the drive, past the empty spot where Gabriel's BMW had been parked. I kept my head down. Paranoid Brandon 85M would emerge from the shrubbery, waving the necklace and demanding I pay him the outstanding $20K myself. I didn't see Brandon, I just walked. I got to the main street and called an Uber. The ride-share driver, a very quiet young woman named Esme, arrived in a beat-up Toyota Prius. Where to? She asked. I thought for a minute. Sacramento was 300 miles away. The airport was 20 miles away. She only had 3 vacation days and I had used them all on this sociopathic vacation. San Jose Airport, please, I said, and I don't care about the price, just get me there fast. The drive was silent. I spent the entire ride staring out the window, watching the Pacific Coast Highway disappear behind me. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I just kept replaying Gabriel's cold laugh and Brandon's face when he pointed to the Talenti container. When I got to the airport, it was almost midnight. I bought the absolute earliest, most expensive ticket back to Sacramento I could find. It was a 6 a.m. flight. I spent 5 hours sitting in an uncomfortable plastic chair, smelling faintly of Lysol thanks Natalia, and thinking about what I had just walked away from. The $3,000 payment was still pending. My job was still soul-crushing. But for the first time in nearly 30 years, I felt a flicker of something that wasn't exhaustion or compliance. It felt like self-preservation. Update Monday morning 9:30 a.m. So I'm back in Sacramento. I'm in my tiny, perfectly soul-crushing cubicle. I was supposed to be off until Tuesday, but I showed up Monday morning 4 hours after my flight landed, dressed in the wrinkled clothes I wore all weekend. I figured if I was going to quit, I should at least be presentable for the inevitable firing. My boss, Gary, looked up surprised. Philip, I thought you were on vacation. Urgent server issue, I lied again, sticking to the script I invented for Megan. Resolved now, everything fine. He just shrugged, already absorbed in whatever spreadsheet he was pretending to understand. I sat down and opened my laptop. I haven't checked my work email yet, I'm too scared. I opened my personal phone instead. It was a chaotic mess of texts. MEGN Cooper 60F text Sunday 7:00 a.m. PDT MEGAN Philip, what server issue? The internet here is fine. MEGAN, I tried to call you. Where are you? MEGAN Philip, the necklace is gone. It's been 12 hours. We have searched everywhere. MEGAN, the police are here. They are asking about everyone. Did you see anything? Gabriel left suddenly too. MEGAN, why did you leave the key card on the console? The police want to know. I told them you were having a work emergency, but they look suspicious. MEGAN, Brandon is crying in the kitchen. He keeps saying I just wanted the money. What money, Philip? What money? MEGAN, answer me, this is catastrophic. I read those 5 texts and felt absolutely nothing. No, that's a lie. I felt a tiny, minuscule sense of peace. The crisis was still raging, but it was her crisis now, not mine. The police were there. Good, let them deal with the blackmail and the antique disposal. I deleted the entire thread. I did not respond. I checked my bank account. The $3,000 payment from Megan had been processed on Saturday morning before I discovered the blackmail plot. So I got paid for 48 hours of emotional trauma, plus my $1,247 rent is covered. Thank God. Update Tuesday evening 6:00 p.m. I finally got a voicemail. It wasn't from Megan or the police. It was from Robert, Chloe's fiancé, the one Gabriel had texted the photo to. I almost didn't listen to it. But my people-pleasing curiosity got the better of me. Robert L. voicemail timestamp, Monday 4:03 p.m. Sounding completely rattled. Philip, hey, Robert here. Look, I know you were managing the party. I got a very strange text from Gabriel that mentioned you and some collateral in the hydrangeas. I'm going nuts here. I called Gabriel and he blocked me. I called Natalia and she just started crying about her vet bills. If you know anything about the $20,000 or the necklace, please, you have to tell me. We are supposed to get married in 3 weeks. My future mother-in-law Megan is a wreck. Call me back, man, please. Robert was officially roped in. Gabriel had successfully transferred the hot potato. This was exactly what I had predicted. The groom was now panicked and facing a $20,000 blackmail demand, courtesy of his own estranged uncle and his fiance's elderly grandfather. I had the opportunity to save him. I could text him the location. I could tell him Brandon's secret. I could be the heroic catalyst. I walked away from my desk, grabbed my wallet, and walked out of the office. Gary, my boss, just grunted vaguely. I went straight to my therapist, Dr. Chen. I didn't have an appointment. I just showed up and told the receptionist, I need 15 minutes right now or I'm going to commit a felony. Dr. Chen, 60s, patient, slightly terrifying, saw me immediately. I sat there shaking and recounted the entire weekend from the 11:47 a.m. email to the Fern to the blackmail and the BMW acceleration. When I finished, I sat back exhausted. So what do? I have proof of where the necklace is. I know the motive. Do I call Robert? Do I call the police in Carmel? Dr. Chen leaned forward. Philip, what are you hoping to achieve by solving a $150,000 theft and a $40,000 blackmail scheme that has absolutely nothing to do with you? I'm hoping to fix it, I whispered, to make it right. Is that your job? No, I'm an operations analyst. No, Dr. Chen corrected gently. Is fixing this, cleaning up this sociopathic mess necessary for your survival? I thought about it. I intervened. I would have to admit I hid behind a fern, broke into 2 separate bedrooms, handled a blackmailer's ransom device, the Talenti container, and then fled the scene of a crime knowing where the priceless collateral was. I would immediately be dragged into the investigation, potentially sued by the Coopers, and definitely ruin the remaining sliver of my relationship with Megan. No, I finally said. It's not necessary for my survival. It's necessary for my people-pleasing impulse. Exactly, she said. The job you need to quit is not operations analyst. The job you need to quit is chief family crisis manager for the world. She told me to block Robert and Megan, to delete the Ring app notification from my memory, to accept the $3,000 and the fact that I survived a weekend of pure chaos engineered by rich, desperate people, and I finally chose to save myself instead of their antique jewelry. I walked out of her office feeling lighter but profoundly uneasy. I drove home and immediately blocked Robert's number. Then I went to Megan's contact. I hovered over the block button. She was my friend, my college buddy, but she also dragged me into this mess without mentioning her father's kleptomaniac tendencies or the fact that the necklace was the subject of a massive familial cover-up. She used my people-pleasing weakness. I blocked her too. A week went by where I just worked and stared at walls. I couldn't sleep properly. I kept waking up thinking about Brandon 85M and his ruthless efficiency. The whole narrative I had lived under Philip the Problem Solver was a lie. I was Philip the Problem Runner. I hadn't heard anything from anyone in Carmel. Silence. It was unnerving. I assumed the wedding was either canceled or Robert had paid the $20,000 ransom and they were pretending nothing happened. I finally checked my work emails and there it was, not a firing, not an email from Gary. It was an email from HR. Subject, voluntary resignation acknowledged. Wait, what? I scrolled down. Attached was my own resignation letter dated last Tuesday, 11:59 a.m. I had no memory of writing or sending a resignation letter. I opened the document. It was short, professional, and slightly aggressive. To whom it may concern, effective immediately, I resign from the position of Senior Operations Analyst. I have accepted a director position elsewhere that values my input and work ethic. Thank you for the last 28 years. My signature was at the bottom. I stared at the screen for 10 full minutes. I hadn't accepted a director position. I hadn't resigned. And then I remembered Tuesday, 11:47 a.m., the rejection email, the devastation. I must have gone home that afternoon in a fugue state of pure, unadulterated career crisis, typed a resignation letter, saved it as a draft, and then forgotten about it entirely in the ensuing chaos of agreeing to manage Megan's bachelorette party. But I hadn't sent it, had I? I checked my sent items. There it was. Tuesday, 11:59 a.m., 12 minutes after the rejection email. I had rage sent my resignation and then immediately convinced myself I was just taking a 3-day vacation to avoid the consequences. I had already walked away from my career crossroads and I didn't even remember doing it. I felt a rush of absolute panic followed by the strangest calm. The universe had solved my people-pleasing problem for me. I was unemployed, I was free, I was terrified. I called my best friend, David, 50M, high school history teacher, eternally cynical. Dude, I resigned from my job and then immediately forgot about it until 5 minutes ago, I told him. David laughed so hard I heard him cough. Philip, that is the most you think I have ever heard. You know, you said you wanted a new career path. Congratulations, the path chose you. I told him about the Carmel mess too. David was furious. You mean to tell me you knew where the $150,000 necklace was and you left it there? Yes. And you blocked the people trying to rope you back into the blackmail scheme? Yes. Philip Singh, David said, his voice full of pride. You are finally becoming the selfish bastard I always knew you could be. It was a terrible compliment, but in GL it made me feel great. 2 weeks after the bachelorette party by Tuesday, I was officially moving out of my apartment 3B, which was depressing. I couldn't afford the Sacramento rent without a salary, so I was moving into a much cheaper, slightly damp studio apartment owned by David's cousin near the airport. It's a shoebox, but it's mine and the rent is manageable. I had avoided all social media, but on Thursday, curiosity finally got me. I logged onto Facebook under an old burner account just to see if the wedding was still happening. Chloe Cooper's profile popped up. The wedding album was titled The Happily Ever After. Photos showed a beautiful, slightly stressed-looking Chloe marrying Robert L., the guy who was blackmailed. Natalia 64F was there, looking exhausted but smiling, holding a picture of Prince Mittens III. And Brandon Young 85M was in the front row, looking absolutely immaculate in a gray suit, beaming at the camera. He looked like the picture of the loving, harmless grandfather. There was no sign of Gabriel Lopez 65M. The blackmail had clearly worked. Robert had paid, Brandon had shown up silent and collected his final $20,000 and the wedding happened. I scrolled through the photos and then I saw one of Megan 60F. She looked tired, thinner, but she was wearing a stunning, intricate diamond necklace. The Cooper heirloom. It was draped around her neck, sparkling in the high-res wedding photos. They found it. My first thought was relief. My second thought was, wait, how did they find it? My third thought was a chill. They found it, but they never mentioned who knew where it was. Then I saw the caption on the photo of Megan and Chloe. It was written by Megan. MEG. Thank you to everyone who made this day possible, especially Philip Singh, who ensured every single detail, even the ones he couldn't stay for, ran smoothly. The return of the heirloom was a miracle. We knew Philip would handle it. I literally threw my burner phone across the room. I had walked away. I had refused to intervene. And yet somehow Megan had spun my sudden, frantic departure as part of the Philip handled it narrative. She was crediting me for the miraculous return of the necklace. I am dead serious. My phone immediately started buzzing with a new text message. MEGN Cooper 60F from a new number. Philip, darling, so glad you're back online. The insurance company needs a statement. They want to know where you found the necklace. It's a logistical nightmare with the filing. Call me immediately, please. I told them you were a genius. She didn't mention the blackmail. She didn't mention the $40,000 payoff. She just needed me to finalize the paperwork to tell the insurance company where I, the supposed genius, had found the antique. I realized they needed me one last time, not to solve the crime, but to provide the convenient, clean logistics of the resolution. The old Philip would have immediately called her back, crafted a flawless narrative about searching the premises after Gabriel left, and filed the perfect statement, thus saving Megan from potential insurance fraud charges related to the blackmail. I would have been her white knight and I would have felt smugly justified. Instead, I blocked the new number without replying. The aftermath and the final confrontation a few days later, I was boxing up my remaining office supplies at the company, clearing my desk for the real paying director who would take the job I was supposed to get. Gary, my former boss, was there. You know, Philip, Gary said, chewing loudly on a piece of gum. It was strange. You quit literally 12 minutes after the director announcement. And you didn't even apply for the new job, which pays significantly more. I decided I needed a change, I said, putting my favorite ergonomic wrist rest in a box. Right, Gary said, skeptical. Well, that expensive necklace from the Cooper family, the one that was stolen during that party you were at, my wife knows the Coopers, big society drama. It reappeared, right? They called it a miracle. My wife said the story they told the police was that the old grandpa, Brandon, was trying to mail the necklace to himself, and it fell out of the package and into the bushes right before he could ship it. They said you found it and put it back. My jaw clenched. Brandon had been packaging it but not mailing it. He had tossed it as collateral. They had woven the truth of his package-stealing tendency into a convenient lie to cover the fact that he was a highly efficient, elderly blackmailer. That's a nice story, I said. Yeah, well, the police report is closed, Gary said, but the real story is that the Coopers are paying off the grandpa. Some huge sum, $40,000 I hear, to keep him quiet about something big. My wife says it has to do with the bride's real mom. I looked at Gary, the oblivious, credit-stealing operations manager, and felt a strange calm. Everyone knew. Or at least everyone in their extended gossiping network knew the broad strokes of the truth, that the whole thing was a $40,000 family secret payoff, but they had decided to manufacture a narrative where the necklace was found and the details were swept away. And in that clean, manufactured narrative, Philip Singh was credited as the hero. I had walked away from the drama, and the drama had followed me, determined to make me the center of the resolution. It was infuriating, but it was also a choice. I could either correct the record, admit I fled, and expose myself to litigation and further drama, or I could accept the undeserved credit, confirm my reputation as a problem solver, and then disappear. I chose the latter. I decided to let the lie stand. It was the ultimate passive act of non-people-pleasing. I wouldn't fix their mess, but I would profit from the perception that I did. I looked at Gary. You know, Gary, I said, putting my name badge in the box. That director job you hired someone for, the one that involves 70-hour weeks and covering your mistakes, I didn't apply because I realized I value my time too much to stay here. I actually have a few consulting offers already. It was a total bold-faced lie. I had 0 offers, but Gary's eyes widened. Consulting? You're serious? Dead serious, I said. And I don't need to file an insurance statement for the Coopers because I don't work for them anymore. I simply helped a friend who asked nicely. Now I need to go. Good luck with the Q3 projections. I walked out of that cubicle knowing I burned the bridge completely but feeling astonishingly light. 3 days after quitting the Gabriel interlude, I'm starting to settle into the new shoebox apartment. David's cousin's place is definitely damp, and the microwave smells like old fish, but I can afford it. I was unpacking my last box, the one containing the slightly pistachio-stained ceramic doll's head I grabbed from the freezer. Don't ask why I kept it. I think it's trauma collateral when I got a bizarre text. It was from an unknown number, just a link. I clicked it. It went straight to YouTube. The video title was The Audacity of Happiness: How to Leverage Your Pain for Profit. It was Gabriel Lopez, 65M. He was standing on a brightly lit stage in Las Vegas wearing a magnificent, slightly too tight sequin blazer, delivering his motivational speech. I watched for a minute. He was talking about integrity and finding your true self. The irony was so thick I could choke on it. Then he paused, looked straight into the camera, and said, "Sometimes, friends, the greatest act of love you can commit is walking away. Knowing when your presence is only serving someone else's dysfunction. You have to be charismatic enough to exit the drama, darling." He had totally repurposed the sociopathic justification he used for abandoning his family and his blackmail co-conspirators. He was now selling walking away as a spiritual breakthrough. I quickly minimized the video, and then I noticed the final text below the link, also from the unknown number. Gabriel, 65M, just checking in, Philip. Hope you learned the lesson. I saw your name on the wedding announcement. Glad to see you played the hero, even if you weren't there for the finale, a true people pleaser until the end. But remember, the moment you put the heirloom back, the power is gone. Keep walking, Philip, you deserve it. BTW, thanks for the inspiration for chapter 3 of my book. Gabriel had found me. He knew I walked away. He respected it in a twisted, self-serving way and was now leveraging my choice for his own brand. He was giving me a final, creepy endorsement. I laughed, a real, genuine laugh for the first time in weeks. I deleted the text chain and immediately started drafting a scathing 1-star review of his book should it ever materialize. Petty? Yes. Necessary? Absolutely. The final realization: 5 weeks out, it's been over a month since I left Carmel. The wedding is ancient history. I've started applying for consulting jobs, focusing on smaller independent logistics firms where I can actually be the director and set my own hours. I'm broke eating ramen, but the stress headache I've had since 1998 is finally easing. I did one last check-in. I finally texted Natalia, 64F, back from a different burner phone. Just one simple question. Me too, Natalia, new number. Did you get Prince Mittens the third microchip scanner? Natalia, 64F, reply. Yes, thank you for remembering. The vet bills are still killing me, but I'm volunteering at a cat shelter now. I'm focusing on my bobbies and getting my finances in order. Thank you for asking, Philip. You're so kind. She didn't mention the blackmail, Brandon or Gabriel. She had moved on entirely, focusing on her actual comfort zone, cats. The blackmail was just a means to an end, now forgot. Everyone was moving on with the manufactured lie. I looked at my own life. I walked away from the drama, but the drama confirmed that I had the capability to walk away from my career too. I didn't choose the director role, I chose unemployment and peace. I'm sitting here in my shoebox apartment. I still don't have a new job, and the job search is humiliating and slow. My credit score took a hit because I had to float a few big payments. I still worry about my finances. Not everything is tied up neatly. But I finally feel like I own my choices. I am no longer Philip the people pleaser. I am Philip, the unemployed consultant who fled a blackmail plot and is currently eating discount frozen pizza. I don't know what comes next. But yesterday I was watching a stupid TikTok about a dog who tried to eat a whole block of cheese and I laughed until my ribs hurt. And I realized I'm going to be okay. The resolution wasn't calling the cops or saving the day. The resolution was choosing the $3,000 and the high road out of Carmel, California, and letting the Coopers deal with their own $40,000 blackmailer grandpa. It turns out, walking away is a perfectly respectable career move, TBH. Will update if I ever afford fresh microgreens. For now, it's just me in this damp studio. Wish me luck.